I still don't know how he knew my name. I've gone over it 1,000 times in my head, and I can't figure it out. I never told him. I never wore a name tag. But he said it like we were old friends. Let me back up. This happened 3 years ago, in the summer of 2201. I was 2006, and I had just accepted a job offer in Denver. I'd been living in Kansas City with my parents after a rough breakup, and the new job felt like a fresh start. I decided to drive instead of fly. It's only about 9 hours, and I wanted time to think, clear my head. I left on a Thursday morning around 6 a.m. My dad helped me pack my Honda Civic to the roof with boxes. My mom gave me one of those long hugs that said she was worried, and I promised to call when I got there. I had my phone mounted on the dash, a giant coffee from Quick Trip, and a true crime podcast ready to go. For the first couple hours, everything was normal. Kansas in June is just miles of flat farmland, green and gold under a huge sky. The kind of drive where you can zone out and barely remember the last 50 miles. I stopped for gas around 9 a.m. at a Sinclair station in Salina. Nothing special, just a little roadside place with a convenience store and one of those old dinosaur signs. I filled up, grabbed a water and a bag of peanuts, and got back on I-70. That's when I first noticed the truck. It was a dark red pickup, older model, kind of beat up. It was parked on the side of the station when I pulled in, and I remember seeing a man leaning against the driver's side door. He was maybe mid-40s, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there, watching the traffic go by. I didn't think anything of it. People stop at gas stations all the time. About an hour and a half later, I stopped again at a rest area just past Hayes. I needed to stretch my legs, use the bathroom. The rest area was mostly empty, just a couple of semi-trucks parked on the far end, and a minivan with a family eating sandwiches at a picnic table. And the red truck. It was parked 3 spots away from where I pulled in. Same truck. I recognized the dent on the front bumper. My stomach did a little flip, but I told myself I was being paranoid. This was a major highway. Of course, people would stop at the same places. We were probably going the same direction. I went inside quickly, used the restroom, and came back out. The truck was still there, but I didn't see the man. I got in my car and left faster than I needed to. For the next hour, I kept checking my rearview mirror. I saw the red truck maybe 3 times, always a few cars back. Then it would disappear, then reappear. I started wondering if I was imagining things. Around 1 p.m., I crossed into Colorado. My phone was dying, and I realized I'd forgotten to plug it in. I pulled off at a small truck stop near Burlington, one of those places with a diner attached and a dusty parking lot. I went inside to use the charger at the counter while I ordered coffee. The waitress was nice, probably in her 60s, called me on, and asked where I was headed. I told her Denver, new job, fresh start. She said that sounded exciting. When I walked back to my car, he was there, leaning against my Honda like he belonged there. The man from the truck. Same cap, same sunglasses. But now he was smiling. Car trouble? He asked. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. No, I said, keeping my voice steady. Just grabbing coffee. He nodded slowly. That's good. Long drive. You gotta stay alert. He pushed off my car and took a step toward me. You've got Colorado plates now, Sarah. Thought you were a Kansas girl. I froze. I never told him my name. I have never seen this man in my life. How do you know my name? I asked. My voice cracked. He just smiled wider. You should check your car more often. Never know what someone might leave behind. Then he walked away, got in his truck, drove off toward the highway. I stood there shaking for I don't know how long. The waitress came outside and asked if I was okay. I wasn't okay. I was terrified. I searched my car right there in the parking lot, opened every box, checked under the seats, in the trunk, under the wheel wells. That's when I found it, tucked into the undercarriage of my car, attached with a magnet, a small black device about the size of a matchbox, a GPS tracker. I ripped it off and threw it in the dumpster. Then I called the police. A county deputy came out and took my statement. He was sympathetic but said there wasn't much they could do. No crime had technically been committed. The man hadn't threatened me. They took the tracker, said they'd try to trace it, that those things are sold everywhere online. I drove the rest of the way to Denver in a daze, jumped at every red truck I saw, checked my mirrors every 30 seconds. They never found him. I filed a report in Denver too, but nothing ever came of it. The tracker was generic, paid for with cash from a Walmart in Oklahoma. No fingerprints, no leads. I still don't know how he got my name. My best guess is that he saw my mail in one of the boxes through my car window. But that means he was watching me at the very first stop, in Salina, before I ever noticed him. That means he chose me. For whatever reason, at 6 a.m. on a Thursday morning, he saw my car, saw me, and decided I was worth following for 400 miles. To this day, I don't drive long distances alone. I have a mechanic check my car before any trip, and every time I fill up my gas tank, I look around the parking lot, because I know what it feels like to be hunted, and I never want to feel that. There was a bowl of cereal in the sink that I didn't put there. That's the moment I knew something was wrong. Not a feeling anymore, not paranoia. Actual evidence. Someone had been in the house. Someone had eaten breakfast in my kitchen, and I had no idea who. This happened in 2019, the summer before the pandemic. I was 32 years old, a middle school history teacher, and I had agreed to house sit for my uncle while he traveled to Portugal with his new girlfriend for 6 weeks. His house was in rural Vermont, about 40 minutes outside of Montpelier, down a series of winding roads that got narrower the further you went. The property had been in our family for decades. My grandfather built the original farmhouse in the 50s. My uncle had added onto it over the years. The place was beautiful in that creepy New England way. 2 stories, white clapboard siding, black shutters, a wraparound porch, a red barn that hadn't housed animals in 20 years, and about 15 acres of woods that pressed in on all sides. I was supposed to take care of his 2 dogs, water the garden, and just make sure the place didn't fall apart while he was gone. Easy enough. I even looked forward to it. A quiet summer in the country. Time to read, maybe write a little. The first week was peaceful. The dogs, a golden retriever named Barley and an older beagle named Scout, kept me company. I'd wake up, make coffee on the ancient percolator, and sit on the porch, watching the mist lift off the fields. At night, I'd read by the wood stove even though it was summer, because the house got cold. Then little things started happening. I'd come downstairs and find a kitchen chair slightly pulled out. Not in the middle of the room or anything obvious, just not where I left it. I told myself I must have bumped it. One morning, the back door was unlocked. I was positive I'd locked it the night before. I started double-checking every night after that. Then, the smell. It started faint, just this musty, sour odor in the hallway near the basement door. I figured it was just an old house thing, maybe a dead mouse in the walls. But it kept getting stronger. This wet, dirty smell that I couldn't track down. The basement was one of those old stone cellars with a dirt floor. My uncle used it for storage. Old furniture, Christmas decorations, boxes of stuff that hadn't been touched in years. There was also a root cellar connected to it, carved out of the hillside with a separate outside entrance. I hadn't been down there since I was a kid. I told myself I'd check it out eventually. I kept putting it off. Then came the bowl of cereal. It was a Monday morning, just after 7 a.m. I came downstairs, and there it was, a bowl in the sink with milk residue and a few soggy pieces of cornflakes at the bottom. A spoon beside it. I hadn't eaten cereal. I didn't even buy cornflakes. I'd been eating oatmeal. My uncle didn't have cornflakes in the house when I got there. I knew because I'd checked all the cabinets that first day. I stood there, staring at that bowl for a long time. The dogs were asleep. They hadn't barked during the night. Nothing had seemed wrong. But someone had been in the kitchen. Someone had eaten breakfast while I was upstairs sleeping. I called the police, and a deputy came out within the hour. He was a heavy-set older guy named Patterson, who seemed like he'd rather be anywhere else. He walked through the house, checked all the locks, looked around outside, said he didn't see any signs of forced entry. Old houses like this, they shift, he said. Doors that seem locked, maybe they pop open on their own. And you said you're here alone? Stress can make you forget things. I wanted to scream. I didn't forget eating cereal that I never bought. But I couldn't prove anything, and he left with a promise to keep an eye on the area. That night, I barely slept. I locked every door, checked every window, and kept a hammer beside my bed. Barley slept in my room. Scout stayed downstairs. He was old and had trouble with stairs. Around 3 a.m. I heard something. It was faint, this soft scraping sound, almost like someone dragging something across dirt. It seemed to be coming from below me, from the basement. Barley's ears perked up, but he didn't bark. I lay there in the dark, heart pounding, listening. The sound stopped, then started again, then stopped. I didn't go down there. I couldn't make myself do it. The next morning, I worked up the courage. I grabbed a flashlight and opened the basement door. The smell hit me immediately. That same sour, dirty odor, but stronger now. I called out, "Hello?" My voice echoed against the stone walls. Nothing answered. I went down slowly, one step at a time, sweeping the flashlight back and forth. The basement looked the same as always. Dusty boxes, old furniture covered in sheets, bare bulbs hanging from the ceiling. But then I noticed it. Near the back of the cellar, against the stone wall, there was a pile of blankets I'd never seen before. Next to them, a plastic jug of water, an empty chip bag, a pair of muddy boots. Someone was living in my uncle's basement. I ran. I didn't even try to be quiet. I bolted up those stairs, slammed the door shut, and braced a chair against it. Then I grabbed my phone and called 911. The police came in force this time. 3 cars. They searched the basement, the root cellar, the barn, the property. They found more evidence. A sleeping bag, canned goods, clothes stuffed into a garbage bag. Whoever had been staying there had left in a hurry. The root cellar had a separate entrance from outside, a set of old wooden doors that led down into the hillside. The lock was rusted, easy to jimmy. Someone had been coming and going for God knows how long. Deputy Patterson looked pale. "We found tracks in the root cellar," he said. "Fresh ones. He probably left when he heard you coming." A man had been living beneath me, eating in my kitchen at night, walking through the house while I slept. For how long? A week? Since the beginning? My uncle came home early. We had the locks changed, cameras installed, motion sensors everywhere. A security company came out and did a full sweep. They never caught the man. The boots were too common to trace. No fingerprints on the plastic jug. Whoever he was either homeless and looking for shelter or something worse. I try not to think about the something worse. But here's the thing that still haunts me 3 years later. When the police searched the basement, they found something pressed into the dirt floor near the sleeping bag. Footprints leading toward the interior basement door, the door that opened into the house. They weren't just there for food. They'd been coming upstairs. The police said some of the footprints were directly outside my bedroom door, not inside, just outside, like someone had stood there in the dark, watching. I don't house sit anymore. I barely like staying in hotels. And every night before I go to sleep, I check every door, every window, every closet. Because I know something most people don't. You can lock your doors. You can set your alarm. But sometimes, the person you should be afraid of is already inside.